Welcome back to Not Real Fishing, everybody, and today we are hitting the pond that's in the woods behind the sea turtle rescue place. And I'm thinking we're gonna start with the Roto. I have a few flies I want to try. I'm gonna bring the Imago as well, just in case they're a little bit further out. We can't really reach them with the Roto. It's a really overcast day, which is good for the bass. Hopefully the bluegill are still gonna be fired up. Yeah, so that's the goal. I want to use the Roto because those bluegills, there are some pretty nice sized ones and they're a really good fight on that Roto, so that'll be fun. The Imago tends to kind of overpower them, but still fun. So we'll see how it goes. That's if we even get anything. We might get skunked today. I have a feeling we won't, because from right now currently it looks like there's no wind, which every time we go to this pond there's always wind either in our face or blowing to the left or the right, and we never really have the best opportunity. It's currently 11:27 and there's very little if no wind right now. But now that I've said this, by the time we get there it'll probably be gale force winds blowing 30 miles an hour right in our face. But either way, we're Tenkara fishing because that's the only gear I brought, because I'm driving the missus car because my car eats gas, and gas is a little bit pricey. Put $52 in yesterday and I went from a quarter a tank to 3/4 of a tank, so that's always fun. Kind of makes the excursions to the longer spots a little bit more expensive and a little bit unfeasible. So yeah, we're gonna take this, we're gonna take the Tenkara rods and we're gonna go catch some fish. And now I'll meet you guys at the water, and hopefully it's as beautiful as I hope it's gonna be. Well guys, I hate to say I called it, but I called it. We're here at the pond, and as you can see there's a bunch of ripples. There's wind. It's not super bad, but it is constant, so it could be better. What we've got tied on right now is the same thing we were using at the Walmart pond. It's that little nymph looking thing. We're gonna do a few casts with it just to get our casting arm warmed up, maybe get a fish to get our line nice and tight, and then we're gonna switch to one of the experimental flies that I brought. Well, it's not really experimental, it's just, I'm just curious how it's gonna work here. So this is gonna be annoying to fish because the wind is pretty strong. But thankfully we don't have to cast too far. Alright guys, this is the experimental fly we're trying today. It's yellow and blue, but I put some silver around the hook shank here. So when it gets wet, I'm hoping that when this pulses every now and again, that silver will give it a little bit of flash. So yeah, we're gonna give that a try. Still on the Roto. It's gonna take a minute to get wet before we can really use it very well. I haven't even seen a fish, guys. This is a little weird for this spot. Oops. I'm stepping on it. Haven't even seen a fish. Maybe we should go to the... Ooh, what the world? That hawk just dove in the water. I don't know if I got that on camera or not, but that was pretty cool. There he is. Got a bluegill in his hands. All right, we're gonna try one more spot before we change. If we get something, we do. If we don't, we don't. I'm gonna try one more spot with this fly before we change approaches. This might backfire because the spot we're gonna try now has the most stuff in the way of casting. But we'll give it a wiggly whirl. While we walk, guys, I'm gonna give you all a quick piece of advice, which a lot of you probably know if you're outside a lot. But if you ever have a bug on you and you don't immediately look down and see what it is, and you just feel it crawling on you, don't ever smack it. Always brush it off. Don't smack it, because if it's a spider or a wasp or something like that and you smack it, you risk pushing the actual fangs or stinger into yourself. As opposed to brushing it off, your chances of getting stung or bitten are less because you're not pushing the stinger or the whatchamacallit into your skin. Doesn't mean if you brush it off you're never going to get stung or bit, but your chances are much reduced. The reason why I'm bringing that up is I was over there a minute ago and felt something crawling on my knee, and I brushed it off and it was a big black spider. So I just thought, for those of you that may be new to what in the world, to outdoors in general, just thought it'd be a good thing to point out to y'all in case you didn't know that. Because last thing you want to do is get bit or stung by something that can make you really sick. God almighty. It's a hard spot to fish right here. Alright guys, we lost our first fly, got stuck on a branch. So what we're going to do is we're going to try this deer hair and a big ball of peacock curl on the back with purple thread. I'm hoping it'll kind of mimic a spider when this opens up. You know, with the bigger body back here than these little legs sticking out everywhere. So hopefully us fishing under trees with a spider-ish kind of pattern will work out well. I did shorten our line a bit, which sucks for castability, distance-wise, but it should help us get out past these trees a bit, because, there we go, let's see if this works. Nice little slingshot cast. I'm just letting it sink for the moment. And then do it again, because I can't cast like I normally would. Because of all the cover we got. Alright guys, we're changing things up. We're going to change this beat up worm that I got on here. And we're going to try this out, because we know real worms work here, so maybe this will. And we're going to be using the Imago now. And we're going to be using my floating line for two reasons. One, it's heavier, so it's a bit easier to cast against the wind. Two, I've got a really long leader on here, or a really long tippet. It's probably almost as long as my casting line, which it's going to be hard to do the first few casts, but once it, once it gets unwrapped around my foot, once it once the fly gets wet, it should work pretty good, because we'll be able to fish it deep. And this floating line is really good for the windy days like this too, because you can cast it out and you don't have to really worry about your line management as much, because you can leave it sitting on top of the water and you just watch your line to see if you get a strike. You don't have to worry about trying to keep your line out of the water. And there we go, worms on top of the water. Just gonna start getting it wet. Let it slowly sink, and we'll start playing with it. Finally got us a little bass, guys. Cooked good too, dude. Finally got us a little baby bass. So at least we're not gonna get skunked. Well, not the release I was going for, but I did notice they're eating on top of the water, so I'm gonna change flies, so I'll be right back. All right, guys, so I saw him going after a dragonfly, so I'm gonna tie on this really big kabari, and hopefully this will kind of mimic the dragonfly, because you're gonna have the long back and then kind of the wings, and I can pull it over the top of the water and kind of do that with it. So hopefully that'll get us a little something. I mean, that worm pattern was working okay, but he didn't hit it until I was dragging it right over the top of the water. And that's when he hit, because he thought it was a dragonfly. And the only reason I thought about doing that was because I saw one literally jump and latch onto a branch trying to get a dragonfly. So I was like, let me try imitating that. Lo and behold, it worked. So now we kind of have an idea what they're eating. Maybe we can increase our chances of catching one now. Alright guys, I've pretty much met my match today. I fished there for about three and a half hours, and all I got was that one little bass. I had one other follow when we first got there, when we were using, I can't remember which fly it was. I think it was the experimental red and blue one. That was the only other time I saw a fish. Besides, I had one follow with the worm. And then of course I eventually got one on that worm, but that was it. I don't know if it was the wind conditions today, the fact we had a bunch of rain last night, or a combination of both, but the fish just, they're not there right now. So I'm currently trying to decide what I want to do for tomorrow's video. I'm trying to decide if I want to go hit the salt and do some hand lining, which I went there last weekend. It didn't go too well, but the tide was super high. So I'm not real sure what I want to do yet. I most likely will go get something to eat first, and then I'll figure out from there. But yeah, I also could go do some cane poling too. There's a few spots I like to hit. I like to hit the Walmart pond again, because it seems like it was having some good activity last time I was there, but I couldn't really get to it because of the rain we had. So that might be a good option too. But anyways, if you enjoyed the video, like, comment, share, subscribe, and most importantly, take it easy.